Here we go again. Just roll the intro.
There are people, a great number of people, who think that you two are spoiled brats, that you are evil, that you are monsters. What do you say to them?
That's not who I am.
What did he tell you about killing people?
He just said that it was our secret. That bad things would happen to me if I told anybody.
Now, on this particular occasion, nobody else is home?
No.
No?
No one else is home.
Okay. And do you recall basically what happened?
Yes.
On September 21st, 2024, Monsters, the Menendez Brothers story, debuted on Netflix. Although calling it their story is an exaggeration, much like most of the show itself. The Menendez Brothers story is a second season to the ill-fated Ryan Murphy show, Monsters, because killing your parents after lifelong abuse puts you in the same category as the season's first subject, Jeffrey Dahmer, the man who killed, ate, and did tons of other things to his victims that I cannot describe this early on in the video. I did previously make a video about the first season of that show, which suffered from similar problems as the second season. You can check that video out if you want to, for some reason, but I mean, be forewarned, you're going to be watching me from 2 years ago. It's frightening, to say the least. Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, received a lot of flack at the time of release, so when it was announced that Netflix would be developing a second season, it's safe to say that people were not very happy. Initially, people misunderstood the announcement of a second season and thought that this season would be focused on Jeffrey Dahmer. Again. No. No, please! We don't need more Jeffrey Dahmer stands! This turned out to not be the case, though. No, this season would be focused on another high-profile case from the 90s, the Menendez Brothers. As reported by Unheard, the Menendez Brothers case was one of the first high-profile cases where prolonged abuse was used as a defense for murder. Gypsy Rose Blanchard's 2018 case was the most recent high-profile case that also used this defense. I did an entire video earlier this year on that situation as well. Since the Menendez Brothers case took place in the 90s, it was also one of the first high-profile cases to be televised, like O.J. Simpson's trial in 1995, and of course, Jeffrey Dahmer's in 1993. Could we ever forget about him? Actually, in 1979, Ted Bundy's criminal trial was the first trial to be nationally televised. Televising gruesome criminal trials became, at best, a way for people to become more involved and informed, and at worst, a theatrical event that they could gawk at for entertainment. It has only gotten worse, though, as consuming true crime media has become an integral part of mainstream culture online. Now every case can be replayed back to us without any of the gory details left out, not only through documentaries, but also through dramatized reenactments, which are arguably worse. We're all one traumatic event away from the worst day of your life being reduced to your neighbor's favorite binge show. Erik Perry, a relative of Dahmer victim Errol Lindsay, said at the time of the first season's release. It's no coincidence, in my opinion, that like the first season, the show released at the tail end of September, as people were gearing up for the spooky season. Nothing like a retelling of childhood abuse that led two kids to murdering their own parents to get you in the spooky mood. It certainly worked in Ryan Murphy's and Netflix's favor, because in the second week of release, the show surpassed over 2 billion viewing minutes. In second place was Inside Out 2, debuting on Disney+. After all the inaccuracies that were presented in the last season of the show and the backlash, are we surprised that they decided to make a second season with all the same issues? Controversy sells, and Ryan Murphy certainly doesn't give a shit about selling accuracy or a poignant story about two abused men who had to go to the extreme. Just look at the title, Monsters. Today we'll be covering the inaccuracies of this Monsters season, my thoughts on the show as a whole, as well as Ryan Murphy and the issue with true crime in general. Sit back and grab a bowl of popcorn and join me talking about abuse and murder. Wait. Am I the problem? No, I can't be. True crime in general has gone too far, in my expert opinion. In what world is it normal to sit down and eat an exorbitant amount of fast food while talking about people getting dismembered and eaten? Oh wait, I forgot, silly little me, this is the internet. Nothing is off limits. While there is a case, see what I did there? To be made in favor of true crime media, I think that the cons far outweigh the pros in most instances. They do, especially in this specific case. We as humans, mostly, have a grim fascination with horrifying things. Why else would I choose to rewatch the entire Saw franchise throughout the course of this month? Riddle me that, okay? It's one thing to enjoy fictional stories about the most fucked up things that a person could imagine, but the key words there are fictional and imagined. Isn't it crossing a line when you're getting your horror rocks off to a real story that ruined real people's lives forever? I suppose that if you were granted express permission from all the victims' families and reached out to any who were involved in the crimes, that you could make a stellar documentary that told a powerful story about these people's lives. But that's not what Monsters ever set out to do. Instead, they created a show that didn't leave much out, retelling the same story of Dahmer yet again, but with more fanatical and even sensual aspects added to it. In the show, Dahmer was treated like a misunderstood murderer instead of what he actually is, a disgusting human being who did heinous things to all of his victims. People started confessing, on a public platform of all places, to feeling sorry for him, or to having an actual crush on him. The following Halloween, people even dressed up as him. Now, none of this is new. People have romanticized and dressed up as serial killers for years, but Murphy's depiction of Dahmer set a new kindling on fire within the public minds. A lot of people ask themselves, was this show even necessary? Well, if you want a lot of money, it is cha-ching! Right now. With this new season coming, people expressed how unhappy they were that they were getting yet another Ryan Murphy production. Ryan Murphy, who has been so often criticized for his role in the true crime media market. Dramatized portrayals are often hard to get exactly right, since you need the perfect amount of drama to get the masses to actually watch it. No one is going to watch a documentary that centers on victims' traumas when you can instead focus on the perpetrator's mind. In the second season's case, it's both. How then can we make this show more gaudy so that people will actually watch it? Isn't the subject matter already dark enough? No. We need to make up an entire storyline about the Menendez brothers being sexually involved with one another. That'll get people to tune in. Incest, right? And at that moment, every TV in Alabama turned on. Erik and Lyle Menendez are brothers who were children of the wealthy Jose and Kitty Menendez, who were murdered by Erik and Lyle in their own Beverly Hills home. People were infatuated by the fact that this seemingly lovely couple could have been grisly murdered in their own rich neighborhood on just another Sunday casual evening. There was more to the story, however. At first, Erik and Lyle were quick to make it seem like the mafia or some shady business partner of their fathers did this, but the evidence just didn't add up. It seemed like someone who knew Kitty and Jose personally did this. In episode 1, all of this plays out immediately. At the beginning of the episode, we see Erik struggling with his grief and or guilt, while he and Lyle are on their way to their parents' memorial service. After he can't deal with the guilt anymore, Erik confesses to his therapist that he and his brother were actually the ones who killed their parents. This led to weeks of Erik and Lyle talking about the murder extensively with this therapist, all while the therapist was recording the sessions and storing them away in case the brothers decided to murder him in order to keep their secret hidden. The brothers were fully aware of this. The only reason anyone found out was because their therapist, Dr. Oziel, had told his mistress about the tapes, leading to her going to the police and ending up with the police searching Dr. Oziel's home and arresting Erik and Lyle. In court, Oziel testified that he was sought out by Erik's parents after officials implicated Erik in 1988 of 2 Calabasas burglaries, according to the Los Angeles Times. At the first trial, Oziel said the brothers confessed their crimes to him after a few months of sessions. Dr. Oziel, despite his buffoonery, already had an inkling of what was actually going on in the Menendez house. Why would 2 children ever want to kill their own parents? There had to be a reason. According to Erik and Lyle and other key witnesses, there was. Erik and Lyle alleged that their father began to take advantage of them, for lack of a better word on YouTube, when they were between the ages of 6 and 8. For Lyle, he said that the abuse stopped when he was 8, but Erik actually confided in Lyle a few days before the crime that the abuse was still ongoing. Lyle and Erik's older cousin, Diane Vander Molen, testified in support of the brothers' claims of abuse. She recalled Lyle telling her about the alleged incidents in 1976, when she was 17 and he was 8. One night I was in my bedroom changing the sheets in my bed, and Lyle came in, she told ABC in 2017. He became very serious about asking me if he could sleep on the other bed next to mine, and saying that he was afraid to sleep in his own bed because father and him had been touching each other down there, indicating that it was his genital area. Diane also said that Erik and Lyle's mother, Kitty, knew what Jose had been doing, but never did anything to prevent it, allegedly because she was afraid it would ruin their picture-perfect family image. Multiple family members supported the brothers' claims that the murder was an act of self-defense. In episode 5, Erik's actor, Cooper Koch, recounts Erik's abuse to his attorney. If any episode in the show is good, it's this one. It's done in one shot with the slow zoom in on Erik the entire time. I will spare you the details, but the stuff that Erik described his father doing to him was absolutely monstrous. On August 20th, 1989, after going to multiple different gun stores and finally purchasing 2 shotguns, Erik and Lyle killed their parents. They picked up the shells, hid the evidence, and kept the truth hidden. In the first episode, the entire crime is reenacted and shown to the audience. For the drama, they needed to show the full brutality of the murder. God forbid anything is left off screen. Listen, I understand that shock value is sometimes necessary, you could argue, but it just makes me uneasy when that shocking element is taken from a real-life event. The brothers testified that Lyle soon confronted their parents, and in the days leading up to the crime, things grew so contentious that they believed that their parents were going to kill them to keep the family secret from coming out. They said they believed their parents were going to kill them the night of the crime. Erik and Lyle's first trial ended in a hung jury, meaning that the jury could not come to a unanimous decision on the brothers' fate. During the second trial, which was not televised, Lyle did not testify, and the judge also limited evidence that would have supported the brothers' claims of abuse. Although Lyle testifying probably would have further supported the brothers' abuse claims, a book titled The Private Library of Lyle Menendez by Norma Novelli was published before the second trial. It is believed that Lyle chose not to testify again, not only because of the huge toll testifying takes on someone emotionally, but also because the content of the book didn't paint Lyle in the best light, meaning that the cross-examination would have been brutal for him. Due to all these factors, at the end of the second trial, they were both convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison with no parole. It was between that and death row. They are both still in prison to this day. Following their conviction, Lyle and Erik were sent to separate facilities. After years of Lyle repeatedly requesting a transfer to a prison closer to his brother, he was eventually relocated in 2018 to the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, where he and Erik are both serving out their life sentences to this day. Pam Bozanich, a prosecutor on the first trial, has expressed her disbelief at Erik and Lyle's allegation of abuse. The only way that they could go to trial and have any hope of not getting the death penalty was to make up an abuse excuse, she told People in 2017. This was all about money, and I was very convinced by the end of the trial that the whole thing was fabricated. Throughout both trials, the prosecution relied a lot on the characterization that these men just wanted their parents' inheritance. They were spoiled rich kids. How could they have suffered anything? While I am the first person to hate a rich person, this is just an absolutely heinous way to look at it. Just because they had money doesn't mean that a single bad thing could have never happened to them, ever. Even Erik's own dad, throughout the show, uses this as a way to excuse his own behavior. What was so bad about their life? After murdering Kitty and Jose, Erik and Lyle were shown in Monsters, spending their family inheritance lavishly. Lyle bought the Rolex that he always wanted, and they both spent hundreds of thousands of dollars before they were arrested. This was another key tool used by the prosecution to paint Lyle as spoiled, psychopathic rich kids who just wanted their parents' inheritance. In the show itself, along with a bunch of other things I'll get into later, paints the brothers in a rather unsympathetic light. In the last episode, we see Jose and Kitty enjoying themselves on a boat ride. This is the boat ride where Lyle and Erik believed that they were going to be killed by their parents. We then cut to Lyle and Erik talking to each other. Lyle asks Erik if he's thinking about backing out of the murder, and Erik says that he isn't. Let's just do it. After everything the show has shown us, that's what a show does, about their claims of abuse, why end it like this? It's not nuanced cinema to portray victims of abuse as heartless psychopaths. It's just irresponsible. Why not instead focus on how being abused by your parents for years can leave you in a codependent, manipulative relationship with them, and how that can make you the worst possible version of yourself? In my opinion, the show didn't do any of this. Of course, the other aspect to cases like this is always the same victim-blaming questions. Why didn't you just run away? Why didn't you tell anyone? Etc. This is another thing that the prosecution heavily relied on. Again, I think every abuse victim knows that it just isn't that easy. Or on the other hand, they'll act like they're holier than thou because they got help right away. Ooh, I didn't stay in my abusive relationship. Good for you. I mean, what? Abuse victims are often not likely to be believed, especially at that period of time. On top of this, male abuse victims are heavily stigmatized. Again, think of the time period when Erik and Lyle say this was happening to them. If they relied on their parents for everything, is it any surprise that they would be terrified of speaking out against them? I don't want to speak for them, but this has been and always will be a lazy argument. When you are scared at nearly every waking moment, it alters your brain. It isn't surprising to me that abuse victims would carry out a brutal execution of their own parents. Does that mean that it's justified and okay to kill people when they did something terrible to you? I mean, no, but it is a reason, and a big enough reason, in my opinion, to result in them not serving life in prison. Following Erik's retelling in episode 5, bizarrely enough, we get an entire episode dedicated to Lyle and Erik's parents. It's not entirely dedicated to them, okay, I'll give them that, but parts of episode 6 were dedicated to showing Kitty's suicidal tendencies and the issues that she had with her husband. Too late, in my opinion. Towards the end of the episode, we're told by Jose that he was abused by his parents as a child, both physically and sexually. While it's entirely true that abuse is a cycle and that abusers likely were mistreated as children, it's still no excuse, especially for the things that Erik and Lyle said he did to them. Especially for those things. Kitty is even shown in this episode as having the knowledge that the abuse is occurring and choosing not to do anything about it. How could anyone, after knowing what Erik and Lyle said that their parents did to them, possibly feel bad for Kitty and Jose? It's the parents' duty to heal and not put that back onto their kids. The pacing of this part of the show was just completely off to me. Now, there were plenty parts of the show that were off to me, to put it lightly. One factor is the comedy that is sprinkled throughout. Listen, I'm not saying that there can't be any comedic relief throughout the show at all, but the amount of memeable moments, for lack of a better term, from this show felt almost intentional. For example, when Erik is shopping for new clothes and Lyle says this.
Yes, motherfucker, yes. You're getting those pants in every color, bro. You seeing this shit?
This clip ended up becoming a pretty popular sound on TikTok, with people sharing all of their hashtag relatable jokes like, when my boyfriend puts on gray sweatpants. But that is not even the worst of it. I'm sorry, I just need to collect myself before I say what I'm about to say. People dressed up as Erik and Lyle Menendez for Halloween this year. Of course, they're using the popular audio on top of this already terrible grievance. I literally cannot even imagine the thought process of someone deciding to dress up as two men who both say that they were raped by their father, with that then being kept as a secret by their mother, leading to them both murdering their own parents. Does that make any sense to you? Why someone would dress up as that? I don't know. Listen, I'm not trying to be a party pooper, but we can all agree that there's like a line to be drawn at some point, right? I love dark comedy, okay, but dressing up as two real people just because their story is popular online recently is actually crazy. It's so easy to dress up as them though. I mean, just look at when this show was released, and the 90s fashion throughout the show is undeniably cool. The only rational choice to make is to dress up as these two men. That popular clip of Lyle, however, may not even be entirely accurate. Tammy Menendez, Erik's wife, shared a statement on behalf of Erik on Twitter after the release of the show. I will read a little bit from it. I believed we had moved beyond the lies and ruinous character portrayal of Lyle, creating a caricature of Lyle rooted in horrible and blatant lies rampant in the show. I can only believe that they were done on purpose. I believe that Ryan Murphy cannot be this naive and inaccurate about the facts of our lives so as to do this without bad intent. Murphy shapes his horrible narrative through vile and appalling character portrayal of Lyle and me and disheartening slander. How demoralizing to know that one man with power can undermine decades of process in shedding light on childhood trauma. The Menendez family also spoke out about the portrayal of the case in the show. Ryan Murphy's Monsters is a phobic, gross, anachronistic, serial episodic nightmare that is not only riddled with mistruths and outright falsehoods, but also ignores the most exculpatory revelations. Sorry, I'm gonna be honest, I've never seen that word before. Our family has been victimized by this grotesque shock drama. The character assassination of Erik and Lyle, who are nephews and cousins, under the guise of a storytelling narrative, is repulsive. It is sad that Ryan Murphy, Netflix, and all other involved in the series do not have an understanding of the impact of years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Perhaps after all, Monsters is all about Ryan Murphy. Throughout the show, Lyle comes across as an aggressive, egotistical drug user. Now, it would not be surprising to me if Lyle actually was an aggressive person, since like I said, abuse can make someone the worst possible version of themselves, but to Erik and his family, this is not true at all. Another aspect of Lyle's character that I'm unsure is true or not is when in episode 7, he is shown while talking to Erik and his lawyer, like he's practicing to put on a show for the jury. This, compounded with the letters that he allegedly wrote to people to get them to falsely testify, does not paint him in a good light, hence the book that was released, leading to him not testifying during the second trial. The thing is, Lyle's character is not even the worst lie that was perpetuated by this show. One of the most egregious lies is that Erik and Lyle were involved in an incestuous relationship with one another. In episode 2, we see Lyle grab Erik by the neck almost sensually, and then kiss him on the lips. Later in the episode, they're at a party dancing erotically with each other while other partygoers stare on in disgust. About halfway through the show, we're introduced to our alternate perspective, Dominic Doon, a journalist for Vanity Fair at the time of the trial. During episode 6, Dominic is talking to his dinner guest about how he believes that the brothers are lying, when we suddenly get a shot of Erik and Lyle in the shower together. This was actually a rumor started by a male juror and the prosecution itself. As a Redditor who is deeply involved in the case said, I'm rereading Robert Rand's book right now, The Menendez Murders, and during the jury deliberations part it actually says, one of the men of the jury suggested that Jose and Kitty discovered that Lyle and Erik were having a homosexual affair. That's why they had to kill them. Ryan Murphy responded to all this by saying, if you watch the show, what the show is doing is presenting the points of view and theories from so many people who are involved in the case. Dominic Doon wrote several articles talking about the incest theory. We are presenting his point of view, just as we did present Leslie Aberson's point of view, and we had an obligation to show all of that, and we did. But the incest scenes weren't even theories that Doon himself created. So what exactly was the point of all that? Even if you wanted to show different perspectives, why was this the one you chose? The one that is based on a homophobic juror and a victim-blaming journalist. It's just so fucking disrespectful for pure shock value. I mean, the damn cover of the show are both the actors shirtless, with Erik holding onto Lyle's shoulder. Isn't that a strange choice for a fucking cover? Robert Rand, who studied the case extensively, said that I believe the only physical content they might have had is what Lyle testified. Then when Lyle was 8 years old, he took Erik out in the woods and played with him with a toothbrush, which is what Jose had done with him, Rand told The Hollywood Reporter. And so I certainly wouldn't call that a sexual relationship of any sort, it's a response to trauma. Another lie relative to the sexual nature is the characterization of Erik as a closeted gay man. In the show, during his time in prison, it is implied that Erik had a relationship with another man. Erik was also rumored to have relationships with men before prison. In an interview with Barbara Walters in 1996, she outright asked him this, which he denies.
Erik, you know that the prosecutor brought up the fact that you might have been a homosexual, and that this might have caused some of the fury on your father's part.
Yes, he did.
I didn't hear about girlfriends.
They were there.
I guess what I just have to say to you is, are you gay?
No.
How about we all go back to where the idea of Erik being gay came from? The prosecution, in an attempt to brush off the brothers' accusations towards their father. To one, say that Erik made up the abuse from consensual encounters he had with men, and to also claim that he couldn't have experienced what he said he did with his father because he was actually gay, and he just liked it. You can see why, then, people would be upset that the show included this characterization. I wouldn't doubt that going through all of that would make someone unsure of their sexuality, but this combined with the myth that Lyle and Erik were somehow involved with one another, it makes it seem like the creators were looking for a salacious storyline to get people talking instead of actually examining more on why Erik would be confused. Even if he was gay, it would literally, and I mean literally, make no difference in a trial for premeditated murder. There are a ton of other inaccuracies portrayed throughout the show, including, but not limited to, glossing over other critical evidence, such as the letter that Erik wrote to his cousin Andy in 1988. The essay written by 14-year-old Lyle, I Will Change Your Verdict, about a man soon to be executed for killing a child molester, and the length of the testimonies from dozens of relatives, coaches, neighbors, and friends that substantiated the brothers' claims. A medical record of 7-year-old Erik that indicated signs of abuse is reduced to a trivial scene of the adult actor falling while eating a popsicle. The portrayal of the family members who testified for the defense, particularly their cousin Alan. The show makes the unfounded claim that Alan lied on the stand, despite the fact that he has consistently maintained his testimony over the years. With all these glaring problems pointed out by not only experts and people closely involved with the case, but also from just random fucking people on the internet, you have to wonder what Ryan Murphy could possibly say to defend his case. I mean, he claims that he studied the case for years. No, I don't think you did though, because in response to Erik and his family's statement, Ryan Murphy said this: "The Menendez brothers should be sending me flowers. They haven't got so much attention in 30 years, Murphy told THR. And it's gotten the attention of not only this country, but all over the world. There's sort of an outpouring of interest in their lives in the case. I know for a fact that many people have offered to help them because of the interest of my show and what we did. We were also telling the story of the parents, who they blew their heads off. We were also telling their story. We got an obligation to so many people, not just to Erik and Lyle. But that's what I find so fascinating, that they're playing the victim card right now. Poor, pitiful us, what I find reprehensible and disgusting." I'm not gonna scream again. I'm not. How could you write an entire show about two people, two human beings, and lack any basic empathy or understanding for them? I have more empathy for the random internet weirdos I talk about in my videos than Ryan Murphy has for people he's getting paid millions of dollars to write about. Murphy even said that he has no interest in meeting the brothers because he quote unquote already knows what their perspective is. He went on to say that the second trial was a travesty. I think it's insane that all the evidence that they claim really happened was just not allowed to be admissible, he said. That's a mistake. I think the behavior of those male jurors is an outrage. I think a lot of those jurors were homophobic. I think they refused to accept the idea that sexual abuse could happen to men. I think that's outrageous. So what do I think? I think that there's new evidence, yes. It should be heard. I also personally do not believe that someone should spend their entire life in prison. Okay, then why did you write the show like you did? I do not understand. Ryan Murphy, while being the cog that sent all of this emotion, is of course only one part of this. While being terrible in a lot of parts, the show also had some really good moments. The thing is, when true crime hits the mainstream, the internet's response is by far the best part. I am being utterly fucking sarcastic right now, okay? As it was with Gypsy Rose, Jeffrey Dahmer, and every other person who has been milked for true crime content, the fan edits have come, and they have come hard. Oh, wrong choice of words, sorry. Along with the gross sexualization in the show came actors that some would argue are even hotter than their real-life counterparts. This combined with Murphy's insistence on putting the extremely jacked actor who played Lyle in Speedos at every moment has led to fan cams out the ass. Listen, I get it. He's hot! He's hot! That's what Squidward said, right? But let's remember who he's playing. A man who went through awful abuse and brutally murdered his parents. It's a bit odd, I can't lie. The worst example of a fan edit that I have seen so far is one that was made from the point in the show when Lyle's toupee was ripped off by his mother. What was actually an extremely painful and humiliating moment for Lyle was reduced down to comedic relief in the show. In Rand's book, the author claims that Kitty did in fact tear off Lyle's toupee in a rage, causing him tremendous pain, as the hairpiece was designed to be only removed using a special solvent. Lyle was reported to have started to lose his hair at the age of 14, and while some men are just plain unlucky, right, it is also possible that he started to lose his hair early on due to the immense psychological stress that he was under. In real life, the defense claimed that when Erik saw Lyle without his toupee, he realized he was safe enough to reveal his own secret, that he had been enduring sexual abuse at the hands of their father since childhood. Even more disturbing are the fan edits that were made from the real-life televised trial. In one edit, a Charlie XCX song is being played over Erik testifying with the caption, "Oh, that sounded really bratty. He was so done. Crying face."
Why are we still here?
This isn't a hashtag sassy moment. It's a man testifying after murdering his own parents. There are tons of edits of Erik that you can find on TikTok if you insist on torturing yourself. I agree he is good looking, but again, I think that we are quite literally missing the plot right now. I think it's totally fine to support these men being resentenced and released, but where do we draw the line at that support? My personal favorite edit is one that someone made compiling the brothers crying while testifying about their abuse with softcore playing over it. Whatever the fuck that is, I don't know. Also included in the edit are flashbacks that were retold in a separate documentary about the Menendez brothers on Netflix. These flashbacks speak for themselves. I mean, I think you can figure out what is going on there. Look me in the eyes. What would you think if you opened up TikTok one day and saw an edit that someone made of you testifying about abuse in your own murder trial? I mean, seriously. Maybe the brothers aren't bothered by these edits. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, and also it's not like they're watching it. They're in jail. But I personally wouldn't feel comfortable if someone did this to me. At the end of the day, it's always believe victims until it's not. You have one side of the coin that thinks that these men are evil people who killed their own parents for money. Then the other side that blindly supports them no matter what. How about they were abused and felt like they had no other way out except for murdering their own parents? I find it so gross that people who have never been in a situation even remotely similar to theirs want to talk like they would act differently, when in reality, you have no idea what you would do or how you would act unless you were in that exact situation. It's not surprising to me that two men who say that they went through heinous abuse would kill their own parents. Is it morally wrong? Some would argue yes, but does it make sense? Yeah. If you believe the brothers, or maybe you just don't believe in the prison establishment, or both, if you've been brainwashed by the woke virus, there is some good news to come out of all this. On October 3rd, 2024, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon said that the Menendez murder case is being reviewed by his office, naming two new factors that prosecutors are looking at. Gascon said that there could be potential for releasing or possibly even a new trial. On October 24th, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon announced that he will ask the court for resentencing in the case of Erik and Lyle Menendez. One of the new pieces of evidence is a letter written from Erik to his cousin Annie Kano about 8 months before the killings. At one point in the letter, he writes, "I've been trying to avoid Dad. It's still happening, Andy, but it's worse for me now. Every night I stay up thinking that he might come in." The second piece of evidence is a new witness, Roy Rossetto, who has said in a sworn affidavit that he was sexually abused by Jose Menendez as well. Gascon said the final decision will be made by the judge, and then it will go before a parole board, which will determine if the brothers should be released. People who have spoken out in support of the brothers say that they have been rehabilitated in prison and don't deserve to live out the rest of their lives in prison. If rehabilitation is really the true intent of prison, it's not, then everyone should agree that they should be released. Gascon said his message to the brothers is, "We appreciate what they did while they were in prison. While I disapprove of the way they handled their abuse, we hope that they've not only learned, which it appears that they have, but that if they got reintegrated into our community, that they continue to do public good." Cooper Koch, the actor who played Erik, said in a response to this that he's happy to see that resentencing is being considered. He, as far as I know, is one of the only people, if not the only person, to actually visit the brothers in jail. I think it's good that he is in public support of both the brothers, I mean, especially considering the show itself. Yikes. After learning about all of this, I personally hope that they will be released. What they did was terrible, and to treat them like superstars is, bizarre, to say the least, but what they say their parents did to them is horrendous. As someone who has been through different kinds of abuse, I can completely empathize with their actions. I personally have no interest in meeting them, but I do expect some fucking chocolates after making this video. I single-handedly disproved every lie told in this show. I deserve some fucking respect, you know? A little bit of gratitude from your fucking prison cell? Listen, it would be nice. Ryan Murphy, I know you're not listening to this right now, but if you are, maybe it's time to hang up the old pen. You did good work making people empathize with Jeffrey Dahmer more than with the people he ate. You did good work making people edit funny videos of two brothers who were tortured by their parents. You did good work making the most annoying fanbase of theater kids to ever fucking exist. You did good work, but age, it gets to us all. It's okay. I do have to ask one thing about you though. If I die a horrible death, or if I go off the deep end, please do not make a show about me. Leave it to someone else, okay? Please, that's all I ask of you, okay?
He was asleep, or so they say. Who is the real monster here? The friendly man with the chainsaw who just wanted to say hi at 2 a.m.? Or the transgender who was lying in wait for an opportunity to mutilate someone else's body?
Seriously?
Well, that's it for me, and that's it for this video. Please comment down below if you watched the new Monster season and what did you think of it. Comment down below what you thought about the Menendez case in general. Comment down below anything you want to comment down below. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, and if you like me, you can subscribe. I post videos every week here on this channel about really anything I want to talk about. So if that sounds like your thing, make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you know when I post a video. Before the video ends, I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members who are part of the Alpha and Delta tiers. If you join my Alpha or Delta tier, you will get a special shout out by me at the end of all of my videos. So thank you to Cap the Time Lord and Olivia Schutt. I really appreciate all of your continued support. Seriously, thank you. And thank you to all of my patrons. I do a lot of fun, exclusive stuff over on my Patreon. So if you want to join, you can join for as little as $5 a month, if you so wish. If you don't want to, that's okay. But if you do, the link will be down below. Anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this video, but more importantly than that, I really hope I see you in the next video. You better be there, watching me and fucking listening to me. You'll be there, right? Right? Okay, bye.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.